The Marlowe Manor had always been a source of uneasy fascination for the townspeople. Nestled on the outskirts of Hollow Creek, it stood like a monument to secrets, its stone walls darkened with age, ivy crawling over broken windows, and the roof sagging as if weighed down by decades of sorrow. No one remembered the last time the house had been occupied. Some said it had been abandoned since the mysterious disappearance of the Marlowe family. In 1923, the town had spun countless stories about that night. Lights flickering in the windows, faint cries heard through the wind, and shadows that moved on their own. For years, the manor had been left alone, a silent witness to the passing seasons. The autumn wind would whistle through the empty halls, and in the dead of night, people claimed they could see faint glows in the windows, almost like candlelight. But the bravest, or perhaps the most foolish, had never dared step inside until one chilly October evening when Emily Carter, a young urban explorer with a taste for the unusual, decided she would see the manor with her own eyes. Armed with only a flashlight, a camera, and an unshakable curiosity, Emily approached the wrought iron gates, which groaned loudly as she pushed them open. The air was heavy, damp, and smelled faintly of decaying leaves and something else, something sweet, like old roses mixed with ash. She hesitated at the threshold, the house looming over her like a sleeping beast. Yet the thrill of discovery pushed her forward. Stepping inside, Emily was immediately struck by the silence. Not the normal quiet of an empty building, but a suffocating, almost tangible silence. Dust hung in the air, illuminated by her flashlight beam, swirling in strange patterns that seemed to move with a life of their own. Every step she took seemed to draw her deeper into the manor's secrets. The grand staircase rose before her, the carpet threadbare and faded. Portraits of stern-looking ancestors lined the walls, their eyes appearing to follow her. Emily knew there was no turning back now. She moved forward, flashlight flickering as she entered the first large room. A sitting room, frozen in time. Dusty furniture, cobweb-covered chandeliers, and a grand piano stood silent. Yet she could swear she heard faint notes drifting through the air, like the echo of a song long forgotten. The whispers grew a little louder, just at the edge of comprehension. She strained to listen. The sound was so soft, she almost thought she imagined it. Almost. Emily's flashlight beam danced nervously across the walls as she moved further into the sitting room. The air seemed to thicken with each step, carrying with it the faint smell of decay, mixed with that strange sweetness, as if the house itself exhaled memories of long-forgotten moments. Her camera captured fleeting shadows that didn't align with any object in the room. And for a moment, she determined to understand the strange occurrences. Emily pressed on, following a narrow hallway that led deeper into the manor. The wallpaper had peeled in long, curling strips, revealing the bare stone beneath, and old photographs hung crookedly on the walls. They depicted the Marlowe family, a stern father, a delicate-looking mother, and 3 children whose eyes seemed too lively, almost knowing. Emily felt an inexplicable pull toward one photograph in particular. The youngest child, a little girl with piercing blue eyes, seemed to stare directly into her soul. A sudden creak from above made Emily freeze. The house was no longer just whispering. It felt alive. Footsteps echoed through the upper hall, slow and deliberate, as though someone or something was pacing above her. She tried to tell herself it was just the old house settling, but then came her heart pounded. But curiosity overrode fear. Emily climbed the grand staircase, each step groaning beneath her weight. The higher she went, the colder it became, until frost began to form on the edges of the window panes. At the top, she found the attic door slightly ajar. The whispering grew louder here, forming fragmented words she couldn't quite understand. She pushed the door open and shone her flashlight inside. The attic was a cavernous space filled with dust-covered trunks and abandoned furniture. In the center, an old rocking chair swayed gently back and forth, even though no breeze disturbed the room. Emily's breath caught in her throat. The whispers now seemed like a chant, circling around her. Find the secret. Find the. Her eyes scanned the room until they fell on a small, ornate box tucked in the corner. It was carved with strange symbols that pulsed faintly in the dim light. Compelled by an almost magnetic force, Emily approached it. As she lifted the lid, a cold wind swept through the attic, extinguishing her flashlight. Panic surged through her veins, and in the darkness, the whispers became clearer, almost urgent. Don't open it. Emily froze. The air around her thickened, and the shadows in the attic seemed to coalesce into shapes, faces, reaching hands, eyes that glowed with an otherworldly light. Her camera slipped from her grasp, clattering to the floor, and for a moment, she thought she would be consumed by the darkness itself. Then, a single voice, soft but firm, cut. Emily's heart raced as she crouched in the dark attic, her hands trembling. The shadows twisted around her like living smoke, and the chanting whispers morphed into a cacophony of voices, some pleading, some angry, all overlapping. The temperature dropped drastically, and her breath appeared in jagged clouds. The ornate box at her feet seemed to pulse with a strange inner light, almost as if it had a heartbeat of its own. Summoning every ounce of courage, Emily reached for her flashlight and flicked it on. The light sliced through the darkness, revealing the true horror of the attic. The walls were no longer walls. They were covered in hundreds of faces, pressed into the surface, mouths open in silent screams. Their eyes followed her, and every face seemed to twist and contort as though begging for release. Suddenly, the rocking chair began to move violently, creaking and slamming against the floorboards. Emily stumbled backward, tripping over a loose beam, and the box slid across the attic floor toward the chair. A spectral hand, pale and translucent, emerged from the darkness and grabbed the box. The shadows surged forward, and Emily felt an invisible force trying to pull her in. Panic gripped her, and she screamed, flailing, as the attic seemed to warp around her. Through the chaos, she caught sight of the photograph of the little girl she had seen earlier. The child's eyes glowed, and Emily understood the girl was trapped in the house, and the box was the key. But unlocking it fully might unleash something far worse. A cold voice whispered directly into her mind, echoing the earlier warnings. Do not open. Save her, or Emily's instincts screamed at her to flee, but she couldn't leave the child behind. She grabbed the box, feeling its weight grow unnaturally heavy. The shadows surged again, attempting to stop her, but she forced herself forward, running toward the attic door. Each step felt like wading through thick water, every second stretching into an eternity. When she reached the stairs, a wave of energy threw her backward. The box tumbled from her hands and cracked open on the floor, releasing a burst of blinding light. The shadows shrieked, twisting violently, as if in pain. Emily covered her eye. Emily's body shook, and she realized she had narrowly escaped with her life. The manor, though still ominous, seemed calmer now, as if the act of opening the box had freed something trapped for decades. She backed out of the attic, clutching the cracked box, her mind reeling from what had just happened. Emily stumbled down the creaking staircase, the cracked box still in her hands. The manor seemed almost different. The oppressive weight of the shadows had lifted, though a lingering chill clung to the air. She paused at the front door, glancing back one last time. The windows reflected not her own image, but fleeting glimpses of the manor's past, ghostly figures frozen in their final moments, watching her leave. Stepping outside, the night air felt unusually warm, almost welcoming. Unsure whether it should remain or be buried. And as she did, a faint light shimmered briefly from within it, before fading completely. As she drove away, the manor receding into the distance, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that the house was still watching, still whispering. But now, perhaps, it had a friend among the living who understood its pain. And though the whispers would never truly leave her, she knew one truth above all. Some mysteries are meant to be faced, not feared. And some spirits, once freed, never truly rest.